Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So right now we have a friend of the show with multiple personalities, Miss Edie Skye, otherwise known as HP Hollow, sometimes called Heather. Sometimes she cosplays as her husband. She's a little confused sometimes, but makes it work. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers at home?
Sure. I write under two different pen names. As HP Hollow, I write fun fantasy adventure that is sort of clean. As Edie Skye, I write fun fantasy adventure with loads and loads of spicy scenes. My most popular series is Titan Mage, which is what we're going to be discussing tonight. But I also recently released the first in a new series titled Blood Knight Vampire Slayer. The short description of each is vampire slayers and hot girls, giant robots and hot girls. So here we go.
Can't go wrong with either one of those. And we've obviously already talked to you about the Vampire Slayer because it aired the day we were recording because I forgot to upload it yesterday because I was writing. These new ADD meds that they got me on, it's like my mind is clear again, clear-ish. So anyway, but the gamelet, I'm writing one for fun of it just to see if I can. And it is a lot of fun because you can do all the craziness you would have never thought you could fit in a normal book.
That's exactly why I started writing Titan Mage.
Yeah. It gives you the fun of all the weirdness that if we put in like a straight-laced book, they're gonna be like, that's not how it would really work, JR. But if you put it in a game, well, they expect gonzo levels of nonsense. So, and it's all your fault, by the way. I bought way too many of these books lately. Like I probably just spent my coffee budget on books this month.
Oh no, not the coffee budget.
I might have to do something that I never thought I'd do again after the army. I might have to go back to Folgers.
Ooh.
I know, that's serious.
First and foremost, there is nothing wrong with Folgers. You can buy it in bulk at Costco. Okay.
Oh, hold on. Nick knew it was coming because the minute I said I go back to Folgers and his eyes got big, and then she's like, "Hold a minute."
Times are tough right now. You got to stretch $1. You can buy the big tub of Folgers at Costco. Secondly, as long as it's not Maxwell's house, we're fine.
What do you got against Maxwell House? I'm curious.
When you get halfway down the container, it no longer tastes like coffee. It really tastes like you're just tasting like really hot water that somebody is screaming at you. It tastes like coffee.
Makes sense. I can't make too much fun because I usually, when I make coffee at home, I just buy whatever's on sale and I just load it up with milk. And so I with a little bit of milk. But yeah, most of the time I have a whole cycle of coffee shops around my house that I'll go right at to the point where I'm like a known cryptid at a lot of them. And so I drink stereotypically millennial amounts of coffee at fancy coffee shops around me, and that's where I do my writing.
My mom still drinks the chock full of nuts. The old coffee brand. It's called chock full of nuts. And if you think you don't know what it is, you do. If you've ever seen the Brendan Fraser movie, George of the Jungle, because he eats the coffee grounds.
Yes,
goes,
yes, I do know.
Good
That's
movie, by the way.
My mom
that movie. That's a great movie. That is my childhood.
That's it. I hope you didn't tell your mother-in-law what you typed in the side chat, Nick. The brew of the ancients. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so now that we got the fight started, you know, I'm gonna move on and not stick my foot any farther in my mouth. All right, because this is the Blasters and Blades podcast, we have to do the religion question. Are you ready for this, Heather?
Yes.
All right, Total Recall, The Fifth Element, or Independence Day?
Oh, I've never seen Total Recall, so we eat that one. But I'm going to have to say The Fifth Element. Partly because I've seen it more often than Independence Day, but also that particular director, his movies are always a hot mess, but they're a really fun hot mess, and I really enjoy that about his stuff.
I'm very offended that you haven't seen Total Recall. It's one of my favorite films, one of my best films. What's wrong with you?
Remind myself to watch it.
The Schwarzenegger
Watch
version.
the movie.
Don't watch the reboot. Watch the Schwarzenegger version.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because of what you write, one of the iconic scenes, just because they wanted to show like pollution is bad because they're on Mars, right? They had a lady in an adult dive bar where ladies of the evening sometimes plied their trade that had a third baby.
She had 3 boobs, man. It was awesome.
He had 3 boobs. All right, I was gonna try to keep it clean, but whatever, Nick.
And then one guy's like, I wish I had another hand.
It is the most iconic scene, and it's just like,
it's so badass, though.
I think I may have seen that clip somewhere because that sounds kind of familiar, but I know I haven't seen the full movie before.
I mean, it's bad enough they spoofed it once in South Park.
Okay.
It became a little bit of a thing. So
they spoofed it in Paul too.
Did they?
Yeah, because the 2 main characters, they were doing that comic book, and right on the cover was an alien girl with 3 boobs, and and that was the running joke throughout the whole movie. It was like 3 boobs. Awesome.
That's right up there with the 3 seashells. We don't know why, but it's there.
Next year, I guess we'll find out.
Why is that?
Because that's when it took place, was in 2025.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
And we don't have flying
cars.
Angeles.
I can't even trust people that are terrestrial, wheels on the ground driving. You want them in the air?
Flying cars. Like literally every single time I leave my house, before I reach the main highway, I run into, or not literally run into someone, but I pass someone who's driving over the line. It's like, I don't want any of these people to have flying cars.
Yeah, no lines. Who's going to hit them, right? It'll be me. I'll hit them.
Tell us how you really feel. All right. And because we're having fun, are you ready for the next one, Heather?
Yes.
Jumanji, Matilda, or Hook?
Oh, man. I've seen all of those, and I love all of them. Oh, man.
Or we could throw in Journey to the Center of the Earth, because I forgot to edit the show notes, because that's what Madam Stabby Stab thought I was going to say. That's why I was getting the look.
I think I'm going to have to go with Hook, because that's one that I watched. Like, I watched all of those a million times as I was a kid, but Hook had just a very special charm. I mean, it's got Robin Williams as Peter Pan, and then Dustin Hoffman as Hook. He plays it so well, and then it's just, and then you've got whoever played Rufio and just stole the show.
And Mr. Shmee.
And Mr. Yes.
Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Shmee. You're going to let me do it, Shmee. Why aren't you stopping me, Shmee?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I want to watch that like right now.
It's one of my favorites. We usually watch around Christmas.
The pirate that gets put in the boo box is Glenn Close.
What?
Just saying. Just saying. No, not the boo box, not the boo. Yeah, that's Glenn Close. Just had to throw that in there.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a favorite movie of mine. The little.
It's got the workout scene that as a 40-something-year-old guy now, I can really appreciate Robin Williams. Touch your toes. How long since you looked at those? That's right up there with Bangarang, as far as one-liners from that one.
Oh, yeah. I always wanted to live in the Lost Boys, like, giant treehouse city. That looked like the coolest place to me.
Yeah. Did you watch the Peter Pan cartoon when you were little too? That they had a different.
A little bit, not nearly as much as Hook, but
yeah, they had the Keebler's Elf style treehouse where they like went in the tree too.
Oh yeah.
I never could, because I did the Boy Scouts. I never could figure out how that tree didn't die and rot if they killed the inside like that. And we concluded magic.
Yes, magic.
So
magic.
If you guys have a TikTok and you look up the actor that played Rufio, he does a series called Taco Bell or Lobster. And basically, he gets so many residual checks every week that he'll have a pile of them. And instead of open them all at once, he'll grab one out of the pile and he goes, "Are we having Taco Bell tonight or lobster?" And he opens his residual and then he will throw in a scene from the movie that check was from. So if it's Hook, he'll throw in a Rufio scene or whatever movie it was. And he's like, "And it is $19. We are going to Taco Bell."
I mean, this is This is 2024. We're recording this in April, so $20. I mean, that's not even Taco Bell. That we're talking
That's
about
a taco.
That is
that's a taco or ramen noodles. But holy,
Steve, even before TikTok, he had played that game because I sat next to him and it was a Southwest flight, which I find hilarious that he was flying Southwest. It was like 1998, and I was sitting right next to him, and I kept staring at him. I'm like, man, this guy looks familiar. I feel like I know this guy. And I was just getting the courage to do it. And he goes, I was Rufio and Hook. And I'm like, thank you.
So
I would have died right there. I would have screamed and then just keeled over.
Some get really bitter about their iconic roles. Look at somebody that was in a Star Wars franchise who hated the franchise because that's what he was known for. I like
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I was trying not to mention the jerk face, but he did a great indie. He did a great indie, so he gets away with a lot. But I like the ones who are like, yeah, I don't care how you know me. If you like my stuff, you like my stuff, and you know I'm here for it. Like I like that. The whole
and on that flight we played a round of, are we having Taco Bell or are we getting lobster?
Oh, really?
Yeah. He goes, hey, since you're the one that kind of recognizes me right now, you want to play a game? I'm like, we're on this plane for 4 hours, bro. What you got? He's like, before I got on the plane, I had a residual check from Hook. I'm like, go on. He's like, we're going to play a game called, I think it was Taco Bell at the time. I think he said it was McDonald's. Some other cheap fast foods. Like, is it going to be McDonald's or Red Lobster? I'm like, all right. So he opens it up and he's like, Red Lobster. I'm like, good for you, man. I'm an E4 in the Army. I don't make shit. I'm having McDonald's.
I really want like both Red Lobster and Taco Bell at the same time right now, which would be
sound delicious. The cheddar biscuits at Red Lobster. Man, I restarted my diet today because I fell off the wagon when some life stuff happened. And so I'm like, man, all that horrible stuff for me. And I'm like, you know, I could have that today. And then I'm like, no, diet. And now you're mentioning Red Lobster and I want their biscuits.
Yeah, I never get to go to Red Lobster because my husband's allergic to everything there. And so I have to wait until he's like out of town or otherwise not eating with me to get those. And I think I've had those biscuits twice in my life.
You can get them at the store and make them yourself. Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
They have the big box at Costco.
What does it do at Costco?
I'm having those tomorrow night.
Love Costco. I love Costco. I find the coolest stuff there.
60 biscuits per box.
It's like I think it's 4 different. It's like buying 4 of the individual packs, and all you have to do is make sure that you have milk and butter, and you have to make sure that you have cheddar. Like you have to add the cheese, but everything else,
all of those things.
Oh my God. I make them at least twice a year. We'll go through Costco and I'll find them and I'm like, ha ha.
Twice a year? Really?
Yeah, because I usually do it for holidays and then I do it for a barbecue.
When we have it available, we do it with pasta night because the 2 flavors combined are amazing.
Ooh.
That's when I actually have the box. The ones that you've been eating lately are my version of them that I've been creating with Bisquick.
Oh, those are just as good.
They're knockoffs.
Okay, knockoffs are good. All right, we're going to keep going because now I'm hungry and we got to change the subject. All right, James and the Giant Peach or Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh,
Nightmare
Frankie
and the Weenie. Is that what it was, Stabby? Frankie's
Weenie.
Frankie and Weenie.
Oh yeah, definitely Nightmare Before Christmas. Both of those, I was actually terrified of both of those when I was a kid growing up. Just the something about stop motion absolutely freaked me out. And but I started watching those like once I was a teenager and whatnot. And I mean, you can't hate Nightmare Before Christmas. It's such a classic.
And you can watch it twice. You can watch it on Halloween and you can watch it at Christmas.
Movie.
Genius.
I listen to the soundtrack all the time. Like I don't even care what season it is. And there's a version too. It's like, oh my gosh, I forgot the name, but it's like Nightmare Reloaded or Nightmare Remastered or whatever, where they have a bunch of rock and pop bands redo a bunch of the songs, and it's super good. Danny
Elfman, who composed and did a lot of those songs, he is a hardcore rocker. He's a metal guy.
Yeah.
So anytime, I love it when he switches stuff around, and I've listened to that, and it's amazing. Well, sorry, Goose, we've listened to it. And yeah, it's a good time. You'll be singing along, and then once you get the tempo right, so because you're used to singing like things a little bit slower, and this thing's with a metal riff, and you're like, all right, well, I got to speed up my voice.
All right, and because you've answered some of these questions before, we're gonna mix it up for you right now. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
What's your favorite zoo animal?
Oh, you've caught me off guard because I love them all. There's not a single animal I wouldn't like hug if I could bust into their cages. I'm gonna have to say maybe giraffes, because that's not exactly something I can see all that often, and they're just cool, and they make no sense whatsoever. It's like, what kind of logic went into the creation of this animal with this enormous neck, God? Like,
it's a brontosaurus that decided to be a mammal.
Yeah, exactly. It's a furry brontosaurus.
So where does the giraffe wear its necktie?
At the base.
It'll slide down to the base. It would slide down.
No, it won't, because the top of the neck is thinner and the bottom is thicker. So if you put a bow tie on him, would it go up underneath his chin or down by his chest?
Or would he wear a bow tie up top and a tie down below? I don't know.
He's got enough neck to do both. Yeah. Or like a really elaborate collar, like a vampire collar with all the whoosh. If I had that, I would definitely accessorize it.
Now I want one of those like whoosh collars just because it made a cool sound.
So if Edie / Heather decides to come out and visit me, we don't live that very far from the San Diego Zoo.
We got to do a zoo trip.
And
you can feed the giraffes.
And you can pet a penguin.
What?
And Nick didn't believe it until the first time he took me there, but the animals come to me. So you'll get to see them all really up close because they just kind of gravitate towards Stabby.
Oh my gosh, I'm definitely coming out there at some point.
I had an elephant. I had an elephant walk. An elephant. They have like 4 pins, and they have the gates open so they can wander between them. And I was messing with one of them. Hi, baby. And the next thing you know, he followed me through all 4 of the pins until I wandered off to giraffes. He followed me all the way.
You're lucky. You're like a little Disney princess, but cooler.
That's what he says all the time.
So, all right.
You should see the whales at SeaWorld, just saying.
Do they let you swim with them? That would be cool.
No, you're not allowed to swim with them anymore because of what happened with Tillamook.
What happened with Tillamook? Clearly, I don't know the story. Did he eat somebody?
Yeah, the blackfin. You have to watch the documentary Blackfin. He didn't just eat one person.
What?
He ate one in Canada. He's got a body count. He ate one in Canada, and then he got transferred to SeaWorld, and he was in, I want to say, San Antonio, and some drunk dude decided to go swimming with him. And he didn't eat the whole thing, just his man parts. Yeah, and then he got transferred from there to San Diego SeaWorld to basically just be the male to help make more babies. And one of the trainers had a ponytail instead of a bun, and he snatched her by the ponytail and drowned her. So that was pretty dark. But after that, they don't let you swim with them anymore. But you can see their aquarium underneath, and they'll swim right up to the glass, stick out their tongues.
All right, we're going to try to brighten the mood, and I'm going to ask you this, because we are no longer knuckle-dragging troglodytes. We are civilized human beings. Wow, I'll get that out. Clearly, the troglodyte days are still a little bit closer than we'd like to admit, Nick, because I can't.
Roll the ball, quick!
What do you drink in the warm weather? Because this is going to be airing in May. In May.
I think we all got to answer that.
I drink iced coffee all the time. I don't even care what season it is. Like, if you cut me, I bleed iced lattes.
We might be related then.
Yes.
I used to drink the Frappuccinos until I made Starbucks had back when I was working as a barista. And then I looked up the calories and I'm like, holy crap, I'm drinking a Big Mac. And then I went to the iced coffees and the iced lattes. It's worth the extra calories, but an upside down caramel macchiato.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the sugary coffees are definitely splurges for me these days for similar reasons. But I love my little iced lattes. They make me happy. It's like little happiness in the cup.
So
if happiness was a tangible thing, that would be it. Yeah.
It's iced coffee shaped.
So I have two. One, I use the Lose It app to track my calories because it's how I've been losing weight, down 50 pounds so far.
Nice.
And as part of that, you can actually like enter your own made up concoction. So like Stabby makes recipes from scratch. She could, in theory, if she had that app, enter all the ingredients and it would calculate the calories for her. And they have a website where they give you like nutrition advice based on your habits. I mean, they've got like an archive of articles, but they'll like point you in the right direction. And they've got some alternatives.
I measure with my heart.
Same. It tastes better that way.
They've got a recommendation.
Such a southern thing to say.
Yeah, they've got a recommendation for like creamer alternatives that are lower calorie. So I have to read that article and see. I'm going to try some of that and see.
Have you whipping cream? And
isn't that higher in fat?
It's good for you.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to try some of that this summer, but I do love me some iced coffee. And I've recently been doing the cinnamon iced coffee that they do at Dunkin'. And they add just a little bit of cold foam to the top. It is so good.
Nice.
And surprisingly, for the 32 ounces, it's only like 250 calories. So, moral of the story, don't drink the coffee-flavored milkshakes. Get real coffee. All right.
Coffee-flavored milkshakes, though.
They are good. Oh, there's a local ice cream place nearby that makes espresso-flavored coffee. Like, they make it on site. It is so good. Like, you get a caffeine buzz and ice cream.
Yes.
I want to find the place that does the coffee-flavored ice cream in a waffle cone, and it comes with a like a medical syringe full of espresso stuck in it.
Yes.
Oh, I want this.
You can just inject that espresso into your ice cream.
Hey, Nick, do you hear that? Do you hear the sound of my arteries clogging just thinking about that? But oh, what a way to go.
I'm going to die on my own terms. I already told the people at the hospital that. So,
all right. So since you're talking and she's muted at the moment, Nick, what's your caffeinated beverage of choice for the summer?
Arnold Palmer, man.
That's half lemonade, half iced tea.
Half tea, half iced tea. Yeah, it's refreshing, man. I love it. But if I have to go with a coffee, if we're going to talk about a coffee beverage during the summer, then.
They sell tea at Coffee Brand Coffee, so we fit our theme still. We're good.
They do. I haven't bought it yet, and I'm waiting for summer because I'm going to do that. I'm going to make an Arnold Palmer with Coffee Brand Coffee.
Nice.
But if I go to any of the coffee shops for like an iced coffee, it's always a caramel macchiato. I like them. I like them hot and cold. They're amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about you, Stabby?
Okay, so in the morning, it's coffee. It's coffee. It's hot coffee because I can drink a whole pot of that by myself. I've been having to share with Nick lately, but that's okay because I love him. In the afternoon, I switch over to, I love doing sun tea, like unsweetened, just sun tea. I started in the morning, I let it go, and that on ice is so good. But I have been on a cherry Pepsi kick lately.
Oh yeah.
Every now and then you get that. Like, I don't want cherry Coke. I want cherry Pepsi. It tastes better. Send the hate mail to Stabby.
When I was so good. College, speaking of flavored, they actually had an old malt shop type deal, and they would make vanilla Coke for you, but they would put real vanilla extract in it. Like, they'd pour them together. It was so good. I remember having, this was like the weekend before drill, and I'd already passed the height, weight, PT test and all that, so I could afford to splurge. And so I did that, and I thought free refills, because everywhere does free refills, even back in the Stone Ages. And they're like, no, you're paying for each of these. This vanilla extract isn't cheap. And I got the bill, and like in 2003, it was like $100. So I'm like, Mom, can I borrow a little bit of money? I'll pay you back in a week when I get paid by the Army. She's like, what did you do? And I told her, and she just started laughing. I'm like, okay, got to hold the phone away because she's cackling. They still talk about that. They still think that's hilarious. But it was so good, totally worth it.
So for adult flavors, like adult drinks, this one's gonna sound a little funny, but there's two of them that I have come to find I like very much. Deep Eddie's lemonade vodka with strawberry bubbly sparkling water tastes like a strawberry lemonade.
Ooh.
And you can't tell that it's vodka, and it's dangerous.
Oh yeah.
All right,
But it's refreshing at the same time. But also, they sell Baja Blast in a can now, and you mix that with Tito's vodka, and it tastes like a Baja Blast slushy.
All right, so since we're talking about adult beverages, and this is being recorded on the day that your Vampire Slayer series launched, what would the main character in that novel drink in the winter or in the summer weather? I mean, is he like a beer? Is he a wine? Kind of, I don't know. What would he be drinking?
I picture him as kind of a beer guy, because he's very just down to earth, normal kind of guy, even though he's in an extraordinary situation. And I always associate beers with kind of just laid back, cool people.
That's cuz. It's true. That's right. Nick and I will concur with that. All right. And then because we're talking about Titan Mage this time, what would the main character in that series be drinking?
Oh, Locke is definitely a whiskey guy. He's from Kentucky. I mean, you can't.
It's kind of required. So in Virginia, like when you're born, they give you a pack of cigarettes and a rifle. In Kentucky, I'm told it's a whiskey and a shotgun. It's a little different.
It would be bourbon.
Kentucky
bourbon.
Yeah, but the bourbon's a little
Which
more.
It's a form of whiskey, but yeah.
I know, but it's a little more expensive, and it's they're a little bit tight on the funds.
Nah,
it's 2024,
Evan Williams, it's $19 a bottle for a 1.75 liter.
Not that he knows or anything.
Not that I'm drinking it right now because I'm an alcoholic on the cheap. But
speaking of, Hillbilly recommended, was it old Pappy's old whiskey or something? I'm drawing a blank. It's an Irish whiskey. I've got to get the local ABC store to order for me because they're like, oh, it's on the other side of town. I'm like, I'm too lazy to drive that far at gas prices. I'll pay the extra $3 to ship it here instead because it's still cheaper than the gas.
That's true.
All right. Well, you know what? We're about to start talking about the Titan Mage, and rather than interrupt the flow of a pretty awesome conversation, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then we'll come back and we'll rock out with Titans and mages and cool people and stompy robots, all the cool stuff. Boom!
35 awesome stories started by one kick-ass meme. It started as a joke. Storm Area 51, they said. They can't stop all of us, they said. But all laughter has stopped when the U.S. Air Force mobilized and pulled out the big guns. However, relentless mockery and derision by the media and the powers that be pushed the dweebs and alien enthusiasts too far. What else were they supposed to do? They said why not and showed up, determined to find out what secrets were hidden behind the walls of the clandestine government facility. Are you brave enough to buy this anthology today? If you are, find out what the government wants to keep hidden. Read Storming Area 51, a Bayonet Books anthology.
Like, that's the only anthology I didn't break even at a minimum with. And I'm just saying, if the FBI hadn't cock-blocked that fun little party, it would have been the Woodstock of our generation, and that book would still be selling. I'm just saying.
FBI ruins everything.
They do.
That's true, they do. We make fun of them at work all the time.
Sent you a picture of that ice cream so you could see it, JR.
All right. I'm going to have to download this, and then we're going to show it on the pod, Ye Olden podcast. But all right. So now that we got that out of the way, it occurred to me that these kind of books, because we're going to interview a few more authors in this sort of game lit RPG space because I'm having fun with it. We don't have any commercials by books like that. You could be our first. You could give us a commercial for these awesome series.
I totally could. I will make a note of that and get you some stuff.
Because, we like to pimp out our, phrasing. I'm going to back that up. We like to help out our friends.
Are we seriously not doing phrasing anymore? Or?
Yeah, apparently not. I won't quit my day job.
I like to pimp out my friends. No, that's wrong too. I like to exploit my friends' accomplishments. No, that's also bad. I like to
support.
There we go. Thank you.
I want that in my face.
I want it in my face right now. That looks delicious.
All up in it.
You know
I told you guys.
I'm just saying.
That's just a waffle cone. That's glazed. That's a glazed cone.
Donut. Oh my gosh. That's even better.
Got in on this shit.
How do I like? Where do I get this? I need this in my life.
That's got to be at a fair. Only a fair would promote such unreasonable and reckless foods.
I'm just saying, it looks like she would want one of these too, right? We're here to talk about her, so
maybe the robot.
I'm just saying, her robot needs one of these.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't need that shit. Look at her.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, if I've got to go, that's the way I want to go.
She's like watching her carbs and shit.
It's keto, honest.
There we go.
It's breakfast. It's breakfast. It's a donut. It's cream, and it's coffee.
Yes.
It's breakfast.
Nick and I are gonna have to like run an extra 50 laps for that, but totally worth it.
I don't run. I'm a Jaeger with one pilot.
All right. So now that we got the shenanigans out of the way, let's just talk about the series that brought us here. So obviously, you know, when you're not cosplaying as your husband and running his social media for him, you write the words. I just think that's hilarious. I'm never going to let that joke die. Like 100 years from now, you're going to be on like your millionth book and we're going to have you back here and Nick's going to hobble over on his walker and we're going to like tell that same joke. No lie. We're going to do it.
My husband and I tend to be interchangeable people when it comes to being the face of our books.
I need to send you your very own bow tie.
Yes. I need to. I somewhere, but Jacob won't let me touch his bow ties. Like, he's really defensive of them.
Which is why I should send you one that's just for you.
Yes, just
Ooh,
the personal.
It's got to be cooler than Jacob's bow tie, so he's
so I can spite him with it.
Oh.
And it's got to match your leather jacket. Because
do you want to be spoke? Spitting? Spiting?
You know, if you're listening to this on the podcast version, I'm just saying maybe you want to watch it just to see her leather jacket. It's cool.
It is. I got to show it off. It is the coolest thing I have ever owned. It's like one of those personality making jackets. I feel like I'm a really like laid back, fluffy marshmallow person, but this jacket makes me feel like I could like go to a biker bar and start a fight.
But you got
the hood built into it?
Huh? Yeah.
Is the hood built into it?
It's super cool.
Oh.
Now you got to do it with the sunglasses.
That should be good because Ghost Rider has a jacket like that, and he should have the hood so when it rains, it doesn't put out his fiery head.
And she's got the Snow White haircut from Storybook.
The what?
So the Snow White haircut from the Storybook series, like it's a modern retelling where they come to life in this town of Storybrooke.
Oh, okay.
And Snow White has a haircut.
Like Once Upon a Time.
Once Upon a Time. There we go.
Yeah.
That's like the Snow White in Once Upon a Time.
That's what
I never watched
down in Storybrooke. Nick, it's scary. She's starting to get on our wavelength. We might be in trouble.
She was already here, man. She's calling me out on shit.
I know. We're gonna. All right. So
like that's not correct. I'm like, don't you correct me on Daredevil? It'll be a family in chaos.
All right. So Titan Mage, what is the story like? How did you sit down and be like, you know what? I've got these cool ideas and I just want to make them even crazier. And let's sit down and write. Like, how did this come to be?
Well, Titan Mage actually has a somewhat complicated origin. Part of it is that
all the good ones do.
Do what?
All the good ones do.
Oh, yeah. Well, part of it is that for the longest time, for part of my writing career, I released my first book and then had tremendous difficulty finishing my second because I had difficulty focusing it on writing. Like my brain just would not do the thing in an order that made sense. And long story short, we went through some stuff and figured out that I had basically had undiagnosed OCD. And it was manifesting in my writing in a lot of ways, in addition to manifesting in like compulsive checking that interfered with my life, stuff like that. And writing was my job. So I had to figure out how to or was to be my job. And so I had to figure out how to do it. At the time I was doing all of our marketing and whatnot full time. But anyway, so we took we took a look at my weaknesses in the context of OCD and made some decisions and rebuilt my writing style, my writing process from the ground up. And we did sort of two different branches. One branch had me, well, both had me working from outlines, but one had me outlining my own stuff and basically sticking with very linear plots, so that I could then have fun with the world building and characterization as I was working on as I was writing the plot, only in service of the plot. And then that became the Monster Punk Horizon series on my HP Hollow pen name. The other branch of that experiment basically had Jacob writing my outlines and being the sort of lore master, so that I didn't have to think all that much about world building. And so basically, if I ever had a question about can I do this in a story? Should I do this in a story? I could go to him and he could tell me why it would or wouldn't work. And so that series became Titan Mage. But before we even started outlining Titan Mage, like I said before, I handle the marketing for both mine and Jacob's stuff. Well, I was doing some research on a giant robot series that Jacob wrote years ago, called the Seraphim Revival. And at that time, Amazon had this little also bought bar on sales pages where you could, so it would be like people who bought this book also bought these books. And I would make ads targeting those other books so that I could sort of synergize with them. And so I was looking in the also bots for the Seraphim Revival books and kept seeing these books with really huge tits on the covers. And there is nothing at all spicy about the Seraphim Revival series. It's just straight up giant robot action. And so I started looking up these books, like trying to figure out what the similarity was. And there really weren't any similarities except that they were just straightforward adventures. But Jacob comes in and he sees all of these tit covers open on my screen. He's like, "What you doing, Heather?" I told him what was going on. And he was like, we're writing the wrong stuff. We need to write this. And it's because I was feeling goofy. I was like, you give me some outlines and I'll do it. And it was, at the time, it was year 2020. So, COVID, nothing was normal. We were stuck at home. And Jacob was, at that time, working from home. And there wasn't a whole lot of work to do. And so he had some time and came to me a day later and was like, I have an idea. Let's discuss this. And then we threw around so I'd always wanted to write a giant robot series. And so we threw around some ideas related to that. And then 2 days later, he had 5 outlines for a complete series. and so I look at these. I had not expected him to give me a complete series. But again, it was 2020 and nothing was normal. And so I was like, screw it. I'm going to try my hand at writing harem and we're going to see what happens. And I kind of did it as a joke. But for context, at this point, it had been, I want to say 4 or 5 years since my last book came out. And at that time, and I had really been struggling to finish that book. It was like 200,000 words. The book was not half done. Like I hadn't even reached the interesting point of the plot. It was a hot mess and it was just, and I was beginning to question whether I could even still write. Jacob wrote the first few chapters of Titan Mage just to get the vibe right. And then I sat down to continue it. And I finished the first Titan Mage book in 1 month. And compared to 5 years of not finishing anything, it was amazing to learn that I could still write like that. Or that I could still write at all at that point. And so I finished that and then just went straight on to the second book. And that's ultimately how it started. And so it's got a pretty interesting little origin. Now, as for the content itself, I love giant robots. But one of the issues I have with giant robots, or one of the issues I have with bringing giant robots to fruition as literature, is that a lot of sci-fi readers find it really hard to take giant robots seriously. I mean, if you look at them in practical terms, especially if you're talking about the Japanese style giant robots, they're not realistic. They're not practical. There are always going to be militarily more reasonable ways to solve certain fighting problems. And so the thing that had kept me from writing giant robots until that point was simply that they weren't going to work in science fiction, and yeah. But anyway, so we started talking about Titan Mage, and I like to write fantasy. Science fiction, I love science fiction, but I can have more fun with fantasy. And so we were like, hey, why not fantasy giant robots? If they're fueled by magic, then that solves the believability problem. It's like, why does this work? Oh, woo, magic. And
Yeah,
one of my
the
favorite
energy question it solves.
Yeah. And one of my favorite anime ever is The Vision of Escaflowne, which is pretty much high fantasy merged with the mecha genre. And we sat down and started talking about this series and was like, you know what? I really want to write something that is somewhat Escaflowne in vibe. It's one of those series where it's a very good series, but for whatever reason, it's kind of been forgotten by modern anime fans, which is a shame because it's excellent. But yeah, so that's basically where the content started, and then we made it harem because those were the novels that were showing up in the also bots for the Giant Robot series. So we figured, you know what, there is obviously an untapped market for people who like giant robots and hot girls. So let's try to tap it and see what happens. And then Titan Mage became an overnight bestseller. So I have no regrets.
I mean, what's not to like?
Yeah.
Robots. Now, if it's fantasy, does that make them golems instead?
I never describe them as golems like that, and I never the way the robots work is there is a very structured magic system. So the setting is post-apocalyptic in the same way that, say, Adventure Time is post-apocalyptic. Like, an apocalypse happened, but it's 1,000 years later, and occasionally they find neat stuff that is left from this previous civilization, and they make it work for their own purposes. So at the core of every Titan, or which is what they call the giant robots, is what is called a Titan core. And that is kind of my lampshade for how the Titans even work. Like, they serve various purposes. The pilots can shove materials in them to upgrade them. They basically provide a conduit for the mage to channel their energy to power it. And so, and they're ultimately, they are machines, but they have a magical energy source. So it's not like the pilots are animating just inanimate objects. There's definitely there's engineering design involved in the Titans themselves.
So
like steampunk, but magic punk.
Yeah, I describe it as a steampunk series because the main characters. So the way the story works is the main character, Joseph Locke, gets isekai'd to this steampunk magic adventure fantasy world, and he wakes up. He dies on Earth and suddenly finds himself like inside this giant robot. And when he opens it and falls out, naked, of course, because that's the kind of series it is, he finds himself on just this giant magic airship with 3 hot girls, and he has no idea what's going on, and they have no idea why this sudden hot dude with this perfect body is falling out of their robot, but they all got to make it work. And
that happened to me in college.
So first off, what is the body he has when he showed up in heaven, which is, this sounds like Valhalla but cooler, so we're gonna go with that. Was that his body from Earth, or did you get upgrades?
So part of his story is that before leaving Earth, he had plans for his future. He's like 19, college age, but was in a car accident that basically left him partially paralyzed. There was a potential of recovery, but it was going to take a lot of hard work, and he was willing to do the work, but also he's in a wheelchair and he's not in his most ideal situation. And so he's just been let go from his job through no fault of his own, just economy's bad and downsizing. And he's going on to look for his next job when suddenly this woman appears next to him, and there's a short conversation, and she offers him a job and has him sign a contract. Well, he's so glad to get a job, he doesn't really look all that closely at the contract. And once he signs it, he kind of dies and wakes
Always
up.
review contracts, folks.
And she has reasons for doing it that she reveals later. But it's the sort of thing that could have gone very badly for him, but it isn't that kind of genre. So he ends up on an airship with hot girls.
I outlined a series once with that theme is because the joke is the VA is where patriotism goes to die. So they go in for the experimental procedure and you end up a cyborg. So, I mean, the concept of medical procedures going wrong is not something that's unfamiliar to me.
Yeah, his goes the very
Oh, he
opposite
ended
of wrong. So when he arrives in this new world, he has a very idealized body, especially idealized for the genre.
Absolutely.
That's how I ended up with a metal rod in my leg. Medical experimentation by the government.
Yep. So, okay, so he shows up in this new world. Is it, like you said, it's steampunk? Presumably the mech suit that he's in, the giant robot, he rides it. It's not independent of a human operator.
Right. There's got to be someone in it to control it.
Okay. Did you name the robot? Do you call him Bob?
The robot is called Titan Chimera. So all of the robots in the series are Titan something. So there's Titan Chimera, there's Titan Longshot, Titan Deathly Rhythm, and naming all of them was fun because I really love just absurd Japanese anime names. And so all of the Titans have these sort of strange exotic names to the point where it becomes just a joke later in the series. Or not the mainline series because I have others planned to follow, but they have fun with their names.
Okay. So who named the Titans? You, or did you let Jacob do it?
That was actually something Jacob did. Though I will say that he emulated my logic very well. Because Jacob is more of a sci-fi writer and I am more of a whimsical fantasy writer. But we're married. We edit each other's stuff and read each other's stuff. And so we find that we absorb elements of each other's styles pretty readily. And when I read some of the names he had assigned to things, I was like, you know my brain too well, sir.
When their powers combined.
Yes.
Captain Planet.
And that was one of the amazing things about Blood Knight too, because he did the primary draft of Blood Knight. And the two of us planned the series together, but he had the time, so he wrote the novel. And I expected to go in and have to do a lot of editing to make it match the Edie Skye style established in Titan Mage. But he actually emulated my writing style really, really well to the point where I did not have to do all that much stylistic editing for Blood Knight. Like I did some stuff here and there, but is very easy edit.
That's kind of scary, isn't it? Were you like, in the zone, but like, ooh, he knows me too well?
That's a marriage that'll last.
We've been married 11
years.
Each other's. I'm not surprised at all. Like, I'm trying to train myself to emulate his writing style, but the thing is, he fits math in his brain better than I fit math in my brain. And he writes military sci-fi like on the David Weber scale, and I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yeah, but David Weber doesn't have giant stoppy robots with cute girls.
This is true. My stuff is definitely fun. Jacob, it's one funny thing about Jacob is that David at one point banned him from putting giant stompy robots in novels because he kept wanting to do it. And Jacob kept finding sneaky ways to do it, to fit it in the world building. So there aren't any genuine giant robots in any of his collaborations with David. But yeah, David had to try to curb him on some of their stuff. And the funny thing with me is that I'm working on another series called Monster Girl Tamer, which Jacob and I also collaborated on the outlines for. There were no giant robots in the outlines, but I missed writing Titan Mage, and so the Goblin Girl in this series gets a giant robot. And Jacob read that scene and came to me and was like, "Heather, this messes with the power scale. There were no giant robots in this outline for a reason." And I was like, deal. And so we ended up restructuring the latter half of the series to allow for actually now 2 of the monster girls in that series to have giant magic robots outside.
I'm gonna need you to do me a favor. Can you slow down just a little bit? My wallet can only take so much. I just bought the Titan Mage box set. I don't know if I can afford this every month. All right.
This one doesn't come out until next month, so you've got time.
I mean, I could give you one of my kids instead. It seems like a fair trade.
I think you're gonna have to work a corner, JR. That's some extra book money.
They will always be there for your reading pleasure whenever you can get to them. Like, I think we got a lot coming out this year. Like, initially at the beginning of this year, we thought we were going to release a book every 2 months. And then I sat down to actually do the layout for Blood Knight and like had a near panic attack because I was like, oh my gosh, if we do this many books this year, I'm going to have no time to write. And that was kind of something I was looking forward to this year because Titan Mage taught me some awesome things about myself because the first 2 books I had written before we set them up for pre-order. The second half of the series, I wrote as it released. So basically, Titan Mage Ruin book 2 came out, and I started writing book 3. Hold on, I lost my train of thought. My cat made a noise. Anyway, we put up the pre-order for book 3 so we could have it in the back of book 2. And I started writing book 3 as like right after book 2 release. So, I had to finish a book in 3 months. And I did finish a book in 3 months and did the same thing for the subsequent 3. So I basically ended up writing 5 books in a year and a half. And it is awesome to know that I can write 5 books in a year and a half, but it also brought me dangerously close to burnout toward the end. And so one thing that I wanted to do this year was basically release my stuff to Patreon and not put pre-orders up until the novels were done. And which is something I intend to do sometime this year. But then Jacob wrote Blood Knight, and there's going to be 5 in that series, and it completely it caused chaos with my release schedule at that time, and so it's madness over here. We're between the Edie Skye books, Jacob's traditional books with Bane, and anthologies that we're in. We're releasing 12 books this year, and so I'm exhausted already.
Yeah, I'm in the process of revamping my writing schedule for this year, so I don't know. Yeah, I've got to be as ambitious. Well, first off, you said you wrote 5 in a year. How long are these novels? So let's put it in terms I can compute.
The first 2 were 80,000 words, and the others were supposed to be 80,000 words as well. See, one thing we learned about me as I was writing the first 2 Titan Mages, we figured out that with this new writing process, I can churn out about 40,000 high quality words a month. And so we figured, okay, if we write 80,000 word novels, then that gives me 2 months to write and 1 month to edit, which worked well for the first 2. And then I started the series kind of took off, and I was like, you know what? I really like these sales, and I really like this world. And so in book 3, I decided to explore the world a little more and have a little bit more fun with the characters and whatnot. Not that I wasn't having fun before, but they were very efficiently written. And I scaled back the world building in the first 2 because world building is something that can very easily get out of control with me because it's the thing I love, but it was also the thing that made my pre-OCD diagnosis writing chaotic. But anyway, I had gotten some confidence off of those first 2 books and decided, you know what, we're gonna try to do a little more world building. Book 3 ballooned to 120,000 words, so I wrote that in 3 months, and we were literally editing right up to the week before release. Like it was madness. And on top of that, Jacob had also had surgery in that period on both elbows and both wrists, and he is my editor. So I was writing and he was editing while recovering from surgery, and he couldn't type. So he learned to dictate so that he could edit my stuff through dictation and get it back to me. And it is really amazing that book came out as well as it did. And we reached the end of Titan Mage Dragon book 3 and was like, it's awesome to know that I can accomplish this. We are never going to do it again. And then we did it again in the next book. That one ended up being, I want to say 110,000. And then the third book ended up being roughly that too. But I just because I started having fun with the world. And I think most of my books at this point are going to shoot for around between 80,000 and 100,000 words. But yeah, I know how to schedule my writing now to allow myself proper time to write and edit. And that helps a lot because Titan Mage was fun, but Titan Mage was exhausting.
Well, I mean, but it's cool and got cool covers. So what made you, and I'm going to throw the cover back up because then we're going to talk about the cover because Nick's artsy fartsy and he likes talking about pretty pictures. Mm-hmm. So what made you go with the picture the way you did? Obviously the robot, the Titan Chimera has maybe the main character in it. How come you didn't put him on the cover too?
Well, the reason why I didn't put the main character on the cover is that in the harem genre, readers generally don't read for the male main character. They read for the hot girls. It's very, very rare that you will see a male main character on the front of a harem novel. That's not so much the case in lit RPG, where the emphasis is on the hero and how he grows. In harem may have lit RPG elements, but it's ultimately focused on the girls. And so I knew I wanted to have a hot girl on the cover. And I also, the big appeal of Titan Mage is hot girls and giant robots. And so we absolutely had to have a giant robot on the cover. And that particular combination, I think, is one of the things that led it to take off the way it did. I barely advertised the first book. My plan was to get the first 3 out and then start pouring money into advertising. Because the thing is, you generally don't get your ad spend back until you have several books out, because it's the sell through that makes your ad profitable. It's not the first book sales. And so I put it up, and the cover, I guess I happened to hit a niche that needed filling in the harem market, apparently.
That's what she said.
But yeah, Jacob and I frequently say that the Venn diagram of readers who like giant robots and hot girls is pretty much a circle, and I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. All right. So Nick, I'm going to zoom in to the appropriately zoom in, because we're family friendly, and you could talk about the art. So we've got the robot. I like the scroll work pattern. It's bold and crimson. Even my colorblind eyes can see it. But what do you think, Nick?
I like it. I think it's a compelling image.
For
was it traditionally done, or was it like AI art?
The artist is Jackson Chota, and he has actually done covers for me before. I first discovered him when I was writing the Monster Punk Horizon series, and with Monster Punk Horizon, that one is game lit, and whenever I design covers, I tend to look at the bestseller list for the genre I hope to land on Amazon, and I look at what the top covers look like. And I try to emulate that style because that's what readers in that genre look for. And there was one cover at that time that really kept drawing my eye every single time I went to the bestseller list. And I want to say, I forget who the author's name is, but the series was named Sky Realms. And all the covers in that series just really kept drawing my eye. And so I ended up doing research, figuring out who the artist was, and the artist was Jackson. So I contacted him and asked his rates, and he ended up illustrating the 3 covers in the Monster Punk Horizon series. And we had such a good time working with him on Monster Punk Horizon that we got him for Titan Mage as well.
I really like the color choices too, because you have like the big crimson mech in the back, and then you have the foreground figure in blue and yellow. So it really separates the two.
Yeah.
Since I'm going to go artsy fartsy here, as JR said, and finally use that worthless art degree I have and master's. But no, it's a good image, and it establishes the world. It lets you know that's fantasy. A little bit of question of steampunk going on in there, which I like.
You got the frog.
And then there's a frog. The frog staring at me. The frog of truth, if you will.
I like the texture. I mean, like, even look at the texture on the corset, the hair. Like it looks like a lived image. It doesn't just look like, I don't know.
His textures are amazing that he does.
And for the record, I did not look before the show. I like to be surprised, just like you, Nick. So that frog surprised me too. I'm like, wait, did I just see what I thought I saw? And I had to zoom in.
I did not notice that on the first pass until you zoomed in. I'm like, wait, there's a freaking frog staring at me. This is pretty cool.
Because our eyes were drawn elsewhere to her eyes, of course.
Yeah, Jackson has a little frog that, with the commissioner's permission, he will hide in all of his work. So every single cover he's ever done for me has that frog in it somewhere. It's a fun little thing.
Easter egg. I like
a lot of times whenever I post it, my readers know to anticipate it now. And so every time I post a new cover, they will start looking for the frog.
One of the reasons
now it's a game. Now it's a game.
One of the reasons I actually closed it, because you've got we'll talk about the side quest stuff, and now I'm looking for the frog in that one and I can't find it.
He is, let me see. I've got
he on there.
All right, so
He
we'll have to.
He's somewhere. I forget where he is on that one, but I know he's there.
So I'm looking over here. So the side quest is in the same world, but you said they didn't initially fit.
So the Titan Mage mainline series is 5 books, but before I launched the series, when I was in the process of creating my Edie Skye website, I market via mailing lists, and I like to have a free book to give away to people who sign up for my mailing list as an incentive. And so before Titan Mage released, I banged out what I call the Hot Springs episode, which is just this little side story set between books 1 and 2. That is just a little, it's supposed to be a vacation story, but then monsters show up, and so it ceases to be a vacation. But hey, at least they get some hot springs activity. And longest time, it did not have an official cover because the series took off so fast that I didn't have time to commission an official cover for it because Jackson was working on the mainline series covers, and those had to take priority. And so once the mainline series was out, I decided that I finally wanted to give the Hot Springs episode a cover. And so since he was done with the mainline series, I commissioned that for him. And then I re-released the Hot Springs episode. I also had another reason to re-release it in that at this point in the series, there are only 3 of the 5 girls are introduced. And because it's a novella, I figured I didn't need to have all that many spicy scenes in it. And so only 2 of the girls get spicy scenes. Well, the fans of the girl who did not get a spicy scene let me know their displeasure. And so I wrote a scene for her and added it to the novel. So the novel that was released at the beginning of this year, or the novella that was released at the beginning of this year, is, I guess, the perfect version of the Hot Springs episode, because all 3 girls get spicy scenes over the course of how many pages? 150 pages.
So I want you to know, dear listener, when I was moving the camera around, I was legit looking for the frog. Nick was looking for tan lines. I was looking for the frog.
No. You were looking for tan lines, which we didn't find any.
Covered by the text. I'm curious to look it up now because it's going to bother me, because I feel like you usually Jackson, huh?
You son of a!
Did you find it?
Yeah, Stabby
found it.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a different cover.
Down. We're not looking for tan lines again.
Okay, you're not listening to me.
Yeah, let's see here.
It's a different girl.
Not on that cover.
Weird. I have 3 different covers that I alternated between. See, when I had Jackson illustrate the Hot Springs episode, there are 3 different swimsuits. There is the canon swimsuit that appears in the story, and then there's a spicier one, and then there is a bikini version, and I alternated between them to see what okay, yeah, you've got a more zoomed in one, I think. But
hold on. We're gonna solo layout. Show us where this where it is.
Okay, so
I think you're looking on the audio book.
And then just to the side, there's your little frog.
See, that's not on the one I looked.
Well, this is
I might have turned it off for some of them. I'm gonna have to go fix that now on some. So, but yeah, there are several different editions of that cover floating around. I just switched them up.
The one you're looking at, JR, the one you're looking at, she's in a bikini. The one that the frog is in, she's in a one piece.
Oh,
that might be it. It might be on a different layer. Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
Sneaky.
Yeah, the audiobooks, we have to, like, Audible is really picky about the suggested spiciness on covers. And so I always have to make sure that the covers for the audiobooks are less spicy than the covers for the ebooks and print books. Like, they had to, my publisher had, the Royal Guard Publishing that handles the audiobooks had to put a shirt on the main character for Blood Nights.
Okay, I see it.
You just gotta look for the little froggy eyeballs. That's all you gotta look for is his little eyeballs.
I might have taken him off on some of the covers because I know sometimes if the text happens to overlay him in an unfortunate way. Oh yeah, there we go.
There it's on the audiobook version. She's right.
And her bathing suit is different.
Yeah, it's a one piece. You're right.
and there's a little froggy.
Yep.
It's pretty.
And clearly she needs more reviews, people.
All I'm saying is I found the frog.
You know what? Next time you can have one of those delicious looking coffee ice cream things because you earned it, Miss Frog Hunter.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm going to figure out where those are at, and we're all going.
Field trip.
It's gonna be a group event. It's gonna be blasters and blades in the wild.
All right, so
wild, not they are wild.
So you've got the side stories. You've got 5 books in this series. Are there more coming out, or is the series done?
Oh, there are absolutely more coming out. See, now when Jacob and I first designed Titan Mage, we'd only intended it to be one series, which is why it ends. So if you haven't read it, it has a crazy epic ending that is worthy of the most ridiculous giant robot anime. My single favorite giant robot anime is Gurren Lagann, and by the end of Titan Mage, you can tell. But as I continued writing Titan Mage, I fell in love with the world, and other stories began to emerge inside my head. And there's a cast of characters that show up starting in book 2, where they were actually not in the original outlines. But as I was working on the end of book 1 and the early part of book 2, these characters who were not part of the main cast just popped into my head and would not leave, and kind of started. I very much have characters that write themselves, and these characters very much started writing their own adventure alongside Titan Mage. And I just fell in love with those particular characters, and so they start popping in to the Titan Mage mainline story. And by that point in Titan Mage, I was like, you know what, the cast is going to be pretty huge by the end of the mainline story. I don't want to try to fit these characters into the main story in a significant way, because that's just going to junk up the storyline too much. Why don't I just write a complete separate series for them that is set alongside Titan Mage? But excuse me, I burped.
Like a parallel.
Yeah, but I really wanted to write a series that was from the perspective of characters who were native to the world of Haven, who weren't experiencing it as someone who had fallen to that world from Earth. And so one of the series that I have planned is basically, it's the cast is the crew of the Indigo Griffin. They become more, you see a lot of them, especially toward the end of Titan Mage mainline series. But I have a sort of 2-part series planned with them, where the first part is just them going on their adventures, but then the second part of the series overlaps with the events of Titan Mage once they meet Locke. And it's not a retelling of Titan Mage, because they're very much off doing their own stuff, but it definitely happens at the same time. And so you see a little bit of overlap. Like there will be references to things going on in Titan Mage where people who have read Titan Mage will be like, oh, that's what's going on. That's where they are. And so there's that. Now, I also plan on continuing Locke's story. In fact, I've started working on the outlines for that one. I just roughly finished the first outline. That's going to be another 5-book series that follows basically what he does after the events of book 5. And then I recently have discovered the slice of life subgenre of a lit RPG, and it's so relaxing and cozy to listen to. And I've really wanted to write a slice of life harem or lit RPG, and so and that started just percolating around in my head. And then, as happens, characters started to emerge. And so there's another cast of characters that are going to be telling what I'm currently calling Titan Mage of the Library, which involves the librarian of an arcane index, basically building up a new arcane index. And for those who haven't read the story, the arcane index is this organization that is kind of equal parts library and school and sort of mystical artifact handling thing. It's just kind of the center of all magic in the setting. And so we've got at least 3 series to look forward to. I've got another one that is roughly in the planning phases, but it happens after Locke's story is continued. So that's like way far in the future, but the ideas are there.
Are there different size mechs that you have that require multiple users?
No, right now they all just require one. One of the things I am considering for future series is what kind of giant mech gimmick is the wrong word, but what kind of references I want to make. Because if you look at giant robot anime, you have a lot of different styles. You've got the combining robots, you've got the transforming robots, you've got the dual pilot robots. There's the biomechs from Evangelion. There's a whole lot of stuff, and when it comes down to it, Titan Mage is very much set within its own self-contained universe. But I like to hide Easter eggs for giant robot fans, and the last book is especially full of a ton of them. But I find that I write best when I'm effectively writing love letters to existing genres. And so I like to play on things that people who are fans of that genre love about the genre. And so I've been figuring out, what do I want Locke to get a transforming robot? Do I want Locke to get a combining robot? There are already biomechs in the next series. And so now I'm figuring out what else I want to do.
Where did the ideas come from? Are you like double fisting shots of espresso and just like jamming out to music?
It's up to an IV.
Well, to be honest, I tend to find that whenever I'm writing, my ideas come from whatever I'm watching at the time. And so very often when I want to accomplish a certain thing in my writing, I will specifically watch or read something that is like that thing. And so I've been watching giant robot anime. Right now I am working on Brave Aaron, which is a newer one, but absolutely hilarious. And another one for people who absolutely love giant robots. It's a fun parody of the genre, loving parody of the genre. I'll rewatch Gurren Lagann. Another one that I go back to is Escaflowne, of course. And I just kind of, I watch Transformers. I like the Transformers movies more so than the original, the animated series, because I didn't grow up with Transformers, but I really like how absolutely over the top the Michael Bay movies are. Like, I love stupid action, and that's what those are. And
okay, I grew up watching Transformers, the movie and the TV series, and then I revisited it. I revisited Transformers, the movie, as an adult, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm not epileptic. I would have a seizure right now. This is a 90-minute rock video.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't hold up, but it came with really cool box art.
One of the funniest things about my early marriage with Jacob is that the two of us are close enough in age that we have a lot of the same hobbies and pop culture interests, but far enough apart that sometimes there's some confusion. And once when we were dating, I was talking about how much I love Transformers, and he was all excited because, he loved Transformers too. And we got further and further into the conversation and realized we weren't talking about the same generation of Transformers because I was all Michael Bay and he was like 1986.
Yeah, 1985. Yeah, 1986. Yeah. He's talking about that version.
Roll out. 80s Transformers, and I was very much the special effects heavy hot messes.
But the bridging gap is Peter Cullen, who voiced both versions of Optimus Prime. I am Optimus Prime.
Yes. Such an iconic voice.
It is.
Oh. It is. Have you ever watched the story and how he came up with it?
No.
Okay, so it's modeled after his brother, who was a Vietnam veteran. And they were living together in LA. He had just moved out there. I guess his brother was already out there. And they were sharing an apartment. They were sharing a car, and he had to go to the audition for Transformers. He's like, "What are you auditioning for?" He's like, "I'm auditioning for a truck." And he's like, "A truck?" And he's like, "Yeah, but it's a hero truck." And then that's where he emulated the voice after his older brother. He's like, when he's telling the story, he's like, "Well, don't be one of those Hollywood heroes that scream and yell and are just tough. Just be honest and genuine and from the heart and take care of your subordinates." And so that was in his head when he showed up to the audition, and he just went to that voice going, "I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots." And he ended up getting the gig, and he's been renowned for it ever since.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, in terms of continuing the series, I plan for Titan Mage of the Library and what I'm currently calling Titan Mage Lord, the continuation of Locke's story. I plan for the first ones of those to come out next year, once Blood Knight and Monster Girl Tamer have finished coming out. Still working on the release for the Indigo Griffin series. But I have also been, I've been invited to several anthologies, and so I've also written some Titan Mage short stories that are floating about. There's one in a Raconteur Press one called Giant Freaking Robots, and then I've got another Titan Mage short story coming out in an anthology called Paladins of Valor that actually releases in 10 days. And so for those who are looking for a Titan Mage fix, those are out there.
Sleep? Who needs sleep when we can read? Yep. So, all right. So we'll start with the main character, the guy, and then we'll move on to the girls. But all right. So one of our backers who's funded several episodes this season has asked us to revive the question of, if you met your main characters in a back alley, are they going to kick your ass or could you survive? You can't ask Nick this question because he might like it with those main characters. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, so
behave.
I think I would survive with most of my main characters. There's like one or two who would probably have some words for me, but as far as the main cast of Titan Mage goes, I think I would survive. Because, I mean, especially with the main character, he was effectively disabled and then got transported to a fantasy universe where he gets a giant robot in a hot new body and a whole bunch of babes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this situation. So
it's a story about me. I got it. I'd read it.
So yeah, Locke has a good life.
Okay. Well, there you go. You know, if you know we asked for you. All right.
Do I have six-pack abs? I hope I have six-pack abs.
I mean, if I'm gonna get six-pack abs, I mean that's cool and all, but what I really want are the abs that you get from this. Because oh my goodness.
If you go with the multiverse theory, there is a world in the multiverse where that is just all protein, and you're going to get your abs.
I choose
to that's healthy. That's to be considered healthy.
I mean, if you're plowing the back 40, you could probably get away with those kind of calories because you're burning a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So I guess the main character is burning a lot of energy extracurricularly, so he could have it.
Yes.
Sexually.
He does a lot of that.
Do you ever blush when you're writing those scenes?
Do what?
Do you ever blush when you're writing those scenes?
A little bit.
Really? I don't think so. I think you rock it with the confidence of a 5-year-old in a Batman t-shirt.
Well, I just know that when we interviewed you in the one, he was blushing, and then when you did the solo interview with just the two of you on one of the launch days on your YouTube your Facebook Live, you really should put those at other platforms because I try to limit my Facebook time because I'll get sucked into conversations from the anthologies I produce.
I will eventually. It's on the list.
But
that's my goal with every interview with Jacobs, to make him blush.
It is the new goal. So
have his face match his bow tie.
Like, it's one of my hobbies, you guys. It's so fun.
The only problem with this is I couldn't write this because my mom is my first line reader, and that would scar me. I mean, she's already.
All I'm saying is, if you want to make him blush, just tell him that you named your toys after the robots.
Moving right along.
There's still robots.
So the dedications for Titan Mage, they're all at least a little bit salacious, and I chose the dedications based upon how much they made Jacob blush. So I would come up with a series and read them to him. Whichever one made his face the reddest, that was the one I put in the front of the book.
Awesome. Wait. Hopefully your parents don't read this stuff you're writing.
Oh my gosh, my parents.
I'm actually praying right now. I built an altar. I hope her parents do see this.
Oh, my parents know of it. And it's actually really funny because the thing is, a lot of harem authors hide their real world identities because, a lot of them
work
day jobs, and it benefits that alias of theirs to not be known. I write full time, and I don't care. And I also wanted to be able to sell my books at cons. and or sell the Edie Skye books at cons. And my readers are intelligent people. They can put 2 and 2 together. And so I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to be obvious about who I am from the very beginning. And so started sharing images on my Facebook and whatnot. And we get to the cover of, I start sharing the cover of book 2, which I actually don't have on hand right now because I sold out at a con this weekend. But oh, here we go. So I do have the giant disc mat.
Oh, snaps. Here it comes. Get ready.
And so yeah.
Under all of her Gundam models she hasn't built yet.
Yes. This is the cover of book 2. And it started showing up on my Facebook feed, and my mom saw some of the posts, and I got a very concerned call.
From your mom's?
From my mom. She was like, I'm not sure about this and whatnot. And so Jacob and I ended up sitting down and having a very serious conversation with my parents about this new endeavor of mine. And it was, long story short, their approach was like, we know you're an adult, but you're always going to be our little baby, and we're just concerned for you, and which is sweet. But to this day, we kind of
it's adorable. It is.
Approach on how on the fact that this pen name exists. It's really kind of funny. Like I don't think the series became a bestseller pretty quickly, but I don't think my mom congratulated me on being a bestseller until like a year in. Like it's really funny. And
boobs and booty. Oh
yeah. And the thing that won my parents over, though, in as much as they can be won over about their oldest daughter writing smut, is part of it was that they were, I'm a woman writing, I'm a conspicuous woman writing in a male-dominated genre with a lot of male readers, and men have a habit of treating women crappily online, like, dick pics, all that kind of stuff. And they were concerned that my writing...
I have never sent a dick pic.
It was one time, Heather.
They were...
Now let's just ask for it. If you ask for it back different. In the day before you, that's different. It's consensual.
But they were concerned that my writing in this genre was basically going to invite unsafe attention. And I expected that I would get some sort of uncomfortable DMs eventually anyway. But the amazing thing about my entire Edie Skye experience, at this point, my books have been out almost 2 years. I have not had a single uncomfortable fan interaction or weird private message. I got nervous when the messages started coming in, but literally all of them were things like, can we see the stats for the robots? Are you going to make a world map? When's there going to be an RPG? And it was just all nerd stuff. And it was just so wholesome and wonderful, which I did not expect for this genre. And so when I told my parents that and kept telling them that and telling them about my fan interactions, I think they slowly warmed up to the fact that I was writing smut. It still results in awkward silences at the dinner table whenever anyone brings it up. But it's a funny part of my relationship with my family. I love my family, but
when it comes to the interactions, though, since I'd be in the game stats, RPG, tabletop game genre of questioning, but do you ever get any questions where like they're soliciting or asking for relationship type advice, how to woo a woman?
No, actually, it's pretty much always the game related stuff.
Oh, thank God, my tribe is evolving.
If you ever do get any of those salacious messages from strangers, go ahead and send them my way, because I absolutely love messing with, love it. Just in the deepest part of my soul, I constantly get the, I'm looking for, a sugar baby. I'll be your sugar daddy. And I'm like, okay, so here's my request. You're not allowed to touch me. You're not allowed to kiss me. I need at least $20,000 up front and then $3,000 a week. All cars and gifts will be put into my name, not yours. And then you see how quickly I get I'm blocked. And
don't forget to put your email on there.
It is so much fun for me to mess with them. And then I always sign it with Madam Stabby Stab.
I admire, a bunch of my author friends will post all the fun they're having messing with scammers, and I admire the fact that they have the bandwidth to do that, because I don't. Like, I have zero patience for various types of private messages. If someone so much as texts me or messages me hello without any additional context, I'm done. They're blocked. Because usually there's some kind of they're pretending that they like my stuff so that they can eventually sell me something. And I just, they may be someone who is a genuine fan who wants to talk, but I've had so many conversations end up turning into marketing that I don't care anymore.
I had a male fan send me a dick pic.
What?
Yeah. I'm a comic book artist and writer. And it was really weird. I'm like, hey, like I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe he was drunk texting and like he knew a Nicole. My name's Nick. I get it. He's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I'm not trying to out you, man. I'm just like, if you're into dudes, that's cool. That's fine. It's 2024. Actually, it was like 2020 when that happened. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know if I was the right recipient of this message. Thank you. I'm not the one.
So when I told you I wrote Yeti romance.
Yeti smut.
Yes.
Yeti smut.
And so I actually, the person that I was working with, it was under a female pen name. So of course you get some of that. And whenever I got those pictures, my response was, ooh, it was cold that day. It's cool. And you know,
we talked about that in confidence. You weren't supposed to tell everybody. I didn't know. I was turned on. Yeah, it was cold.
If I ever actually get one, my response is basically going to be like, if you're going to send me dick pics, at least send good ones.
Oh, I like that too.
I'm probably the worst person. And me and JR just talked about this the other night. Nick gets to see it firsthand. But I get the wrong numbers a lot. Like people text me thinking I'm somebody else and they put, 702 instead of 722 or something like that, And instead of just saying, my bad, wrong number, I apologize, have a good night or whatever, they like to try to poke the bear. See how far I will, go and if I'll get scared. And the most recent one goes, oh, you and your husband mess with the wrong people. We'll be at your door in 5 minutes. We'll talk to face. And I'm like, bet.
FAFO, man. Come on.
30 minutes later, I texted her full name, her address, her mom's full name, and her mom's address. I said, and that was without even trying. And next thing you know, it was sorry and blocked. And I was like,
that's all that.
I love Google. I love it so much.
Let's get back on track before the FBI offers you a job. So obviously you've got plans in the universe. Do you plan on telling more stories with different characters in the universe? Maybe any from the female point of view? I know that kind of goes against the genre. Like, could it be another male lead also living in the world, or does it need to be the main character to work?
Oh, that's effectively what some of the side series are. The Indigo Griffin series follows Indigo Griffin being the name of an airship. Follows two characters that you meet in Titan Mage. There's Ryan, who is another Titan pilot, and then Sevis, who is his engineer. And it's that one is primarily a sort of, it focuses on the two of them as brothers, I suppose you could say. They're not genetically related, but they have that kind of relationship. And then there's also some romantic branches that happen too, with Ryan being a more traditional harem hero and Sevis being a romantic disaster. So there's that. The Titan Mage of the Library will overlap with the continuation of Locke's story, but follows a new librarian character. So that's a new cast as well. As for telling stories from the perspective of the women, it is the kind of thing that is off genre. And because of that, it's something I haven't considered. I do write some elements of the story from the harem members, the love interest perspectives. But as for telling full stories from their perspectives, I haven't really considered that as of yet, though they would be fun.
So I like that idea a lot. One of my favorites, and it's so funny because it has nothing to do with the actual smut part of the book. I love the actual them getting to know each other and figure out like their backgrounds and everything. But yes, I'm the one that I will skip past the smut in these specific books, but I like the 50 Shades books for the storyline and less of the playtime. So I'll skip that part. But I loved the fact that they did the whole thing from Anna's point of view, and then they re-released it from Christian's point of view.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that because he had so much trauma from his childhood that seeing her reactions and hearing his internal thought process during her reactions to him, I was like, that's awesome. So I'd totally be down to see it both from both point of views, like seeing the girl's point of view and then seeing the harem's point of view. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
So obviously this is fantasy. Does the main character have any magic, or is the magic only the robot?
So the way magic works in this universe is there are people who are non-magical, and then you have people who have mage aptitude. And there are 4 different quote-unquote magical elements in this setting. You've got matter magic that enables the mage to manipulate elements of reality. You've got gravity magic, energy magic, and then, oh my gosh, what's the 4th one? Time magic. And every mage has, usually it's an aptitude for one particular type of magic. And but then you have what is called a void mage, and this is what Locke is. Void mages have aptitudes for all the types of magic, and they're very rare and very valuable. The thing that sets mages apart from people who don't have magic aptitude is basically they can channel magic with greater efficiency. One of the fun things about this world is that technically everyone can use magic. Magic basically is a resource. There's basically this magic gobbledygook floating around their world called void essence, and they can collect it much in the same way that we can collect oil for various purposes. And they channel their magic through these specific crystalline devices called catalysts that basically serve the purpose of magic wands. As long as they have some void essence and the proper catalyst, anyone can channel magic. Hook the catalyst up to the void essence. The catalyst is designed to do a certain thing, and a non-magical person can hit a button and magic happens. But non-magical people cannot use magic very efficiently, so their power is limited. Mages can channel magic with incredible efficiency. They can use very versatile catalysts. And so, hello, sir. My cat is coming to say hello. Are you climbing my chair? And so, yeah, as long as they have the resources, they can use magic. Did that answer the question? I can't remember. I got distracted. Come here.
It's okay. Cats are a cool distraction. I mean, you've got to have your familiar.
Yeah, he was trying to climb the side of my chair.
Dogs are cooler, but we don't judge here. Mostly.
I don't know. I love cats because they're the in between, according to John Constantine. Both sides of the plane.
So, speaking of cats, you got the frogs? Does the frog ever make it into the story itself, or is it just the cover?
He does not. It's just the covers.
Okay. Do you have like pets, familiars, whatever in the worlds themselves? Some authors do, some don't. Do you deal with that?
There is one girl in the harem who could technically qualify. There is a cat girl. Her name is Sloane, and she is unique amongst mages in that she can seemingly channel magic without having a catalyst nearby. How she is able to do it is something of a spoiler, but she has the limited ability to transform herself into a cat. And so there's that. But also, as part of the world's mythology, airships are cats are very common on airships. Cats are odd in this universe because there are quote unquote normal cats, but then as a result of a magical accident, there are also cats that are intelligent enough to say handle paperwork or be the XO on a ship. And that's something that comes up more in subsequent series, more so than in Titan Mage itself. But yeah, the familiars do to a certain extent exist. And there's another one that pops up in late in Titan Mage on the Indigo Griffin. they basically have this Shiba Inu with an eye patch that is part of the crew, and she's actually like the pet of one of the engineers, but it's kind of one of their little mascots.
Now, you say cat girl. Are we talking Khajiit levels of cat girl, or just the ears and the tail?
Ears and tail.
Okay.
Like anime cat girl, effectively.
Okay. Now she's got to figure out how to spell Khajiit for show notes. I'm gonna get it when we stop recording. That's why we're still talking, because I don't want to hear them. So
you're gonna die.
So with this story, like, does this have any game elements, or is it only harem lit? Because I know I get them all kind of mixed up in my head.
The funny thing about it is that I didn't write it as lit RPG. But the Titan, there's a system of upgrades that the Titans use where Jacob wrote out a whole bunch of spreadsheets for me, because upgrading the Titan is a significant part of the story. And so Jacob wrote out these, here's what it takes to upgrade the Titan or this catalyst to the next level. Here is what they have to grab and all this stuff. And apparently that simple upgrade system was just enough for some readers to start calling it lit RPG. So I didn't write it necessarily with hardcore gaming lit RPG elements in there, but there are enough in there that readers have interpreted it that way. And so it's actually something I intend to play up more in later series, just because I figure readers are already calling it that, so may as well make it that.
Works for me. All right, so we've been going for about an hour and a half. We could keep going, but Stabby is sending me side note chats about she's hungry because it's dinner time on their coast. So was there anything that we needed to know that we didn't talk about? I feel like we've kind of covered it and we're just having fun at this point.
Oh yeah, I think we're just having fun. In terms of need to know stuff, well, I mean, obviously the box set for Titan Mage just came out. So in ebook and audio, the paperback will be out once I actually have time to make it. But right now I got to finish Monster Girl Tamer and the other Blood Knight books so I can get them out on time. So for listeners who are wanting to experience Titan Mage, it's out now, and you can read it or listen to it for a credit on Audible, or get it for the whole series for $10 on ebook. So there's that.
Or 17 something if you buy them together on Amazon.
Oh yeah, because of the little deal. Yeah.
And I'm just saying, don't spend it all in one place, because I bought it this morning. All right. So
and if you do like both, our Daryl Mayfield and Jess Trepanier did the narration for the audiobook, and oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like they did an excellent job with it. And so it's very much worth getting both.
So I didn't even listen to the sample. I normally do, but you amuse me. So I'm like, I'll probably like her book. We're good. And anything that made your husband blush feels like it would be fun to read.
Yes.
That is like you could rate it, like on your website, you could rate it by like how many blushing meters it is with Jacob's blushing meter. I don't know. That could be a thing. That's merch right there. All right. So what are you, we're recording this in, early April. What are you writing right now as we wrap this up?
Well, I just finished the first draft of Monster Girl Tamer, and so I'm editing that right now. Before I start on the next book in that series, I've got a short story in a new universe that I'm going to write, and then I plan on writing the first little bit of the first Indigo Griffin series novel. But after that, I'm going to be writing Monster Girl Tamer Book 2. And so Monster Girl Tamer Book 1 is set to come out in mid-May, so there's that to look forward to. And then Blood Knight 2 will come out in July, and Blood Knight 3 will come out in, I forgot how months work. I think it's October. Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff coming out this year. Like, in addition to the Edie Skye stuff, Jacob has
it's coming out this year, though, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's coming out 2024. Okay.
Yeah. So Jacob has another Gordian Division book with David Weber coming out in June called The Thermopylae Protocol. He also has another book, his first solo hardcover for Bane, coming out in October, called Freelancers of Neptune, which right now is mildly famous on Twitter for its really great cat girl cover. So that's basically.
I have seen the images for both, for Thermopylae
I love
Protocol, and yeah, they're good. They're good covers. They're really eye catching.
Freelancers of Neptune is basically, he describes it as Firefly meets Ringworld, but I describe it as Firefly meets anime. Like, he says it's not inspired by Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop, but I refuse to believe it.
It probably is.
I'm saying normally Trad Pub covers are trash, but I'm saying Bane's been stepping their game up lately.
Oh yeah, Bane does some excellent covers. That's one of the reasons why we're so glad to be published by them, because one of the reasons why we started indie publishing in to begin with is because I wanted complete creative control over what our books looked like, and we've all of our indie stuff has had excellently illustrated covers, and like Bane is the only publisher I can think of. Like there's a few others that will occasionally splurge on a good fancy cover for a high level book. But Bane is the only publisher out there that consistently does really, really nice classic illustrated covers. And it's one of the reasons why they're one of my favorite publishers.
Nice. So if someone wanted to, and obviously all the links will be in the show notes, but if someone wanted to track you down on the interwebs to see what you're doing, what you're writing, how might they find you?
Well, my websites, you can go to edieskye.com, or for my non-smut hollowwriting.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X now, and TikTok as at Edie Skye author. And then you can find me on the same places as like at Hollow Writing for the other stuff. So in terms of buying, I'm also on Amazon, so that's easy.
So with Twitter, you tweeted. With X, do you double X? Because that could get real salacious too. We'll have to ask Elon if he ever answers my text. I don't know. All right. So that being said, Stabby is shooting me all kinds of messages about how hungry she is, and she still has to cook because, you know, West Coast, worst coast. I mean, what?
I'm starving. I'm starving. And you can say West Coast, worst coast, but I didn't have to worry about like EMPs during the eclipse and stuff because we didn't see the eclipse. So
all right. You can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Twitters, the email, Blasters and Blades Podcast @gmail.com. We link to our Facebook group and Facebook page. And most importantly, we link to Madam Stabby Stab over on the Instagram, Twitter, email. You send her letters, she replies and makes you cry. Ooh, that rhymes. You should put that on a t-shirt too. We have our website on anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. I understand that Spotify bought Anchor FM. So I got a notice when I was uploading Edie Skye's Vampire Slayer series that at some point in time, I'm going to be forced to merge the two and go to Spotify. So I suspect our website with the podcast only version will change. But worst case scenario, click the link tree and it'll always be up to date because we do that and check it out. And if you want to support the show more directly, go to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast, and I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink until the Java pours out of their eyeballs, and we will save up until we can buy one of those delicious, delicious coffee drinks. You know, we're supposed to be wrapping this up, but we've just got to throw that on the screen one more time. I mean, come on. Hello. I need this in my life. And with that out of the way, thank you for spending some Coffee Brand Coffee, Podcast Grunts in the show notes, link below. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my hungry co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And while we went a little more mature than we normally do, we apologize for nothing. And with that, we're out.
No regrets.